Located in the capital of the Cotswolds, St. John Baptist is one of the biggest parish churches in the United Kingdom. With some parts dating back to the 10th century, this church has been built up and evolved over nearly 9 centuries to the impressive feature it is today.
So the first church here began to go up in the early 1100s, after the Saxon church, which used to be here in Cirencester, was pulled down. And it was pulled down by the Augustinian canons, who were granted permission to come here in the early 1100s by Henry I and build an abbey. And they chose a site more or less just next door to the big Saxon church, where the townsfolk had been worshipping. And as they built their abbey, that Saxon church, and they did not want the townsfolk coming to worship in their great abbey church as that rose. So they built the first church on this site.
The church was built in the Gothic style, which was popular at the time. This is reflected in the pointed roofs and narrow pillars which can be found all over the church. Theorized to be the oldest part of the church, this pillar is rumored to be part of some Roman ruins, as the Romans once occupied Cirencester, which was then called Corinium. If this is true, this pillar would be over 1,000 years old.
The roof in the Catherine Chapel is marvellous stone roof of fan vaulting. Architectural historians think that it may be that what you're looking at when you look at that vaulting, you're looking at part of the abbey. It may be that you're looking at some of the fan vaulting from the cloisters of the abbey. And the abbey surrendered to Henry VIII's commissioners in 1539 and was very quickly pulled down.
As a result of this resourcefulness, this chapel is the only part of the church to not feature a wooden ceiling. Speaking of the wooden ceilings, many ornate and interesting carvings can be found throughout the church, such as this carving of a cat and mouse. Not much is known about this carving, but it is known amongst the church volunteers and staff as the Tom and Jerry carving. The tower is one of the church's most impressive features. Standing at an impressive 134 feet tall, this tower is one of the main contributors to making the church the largest parish church in Gloucestershire. Built in 1400, the tower was paid for in blood money.
In 1399, King Richard II was deposed by his cousin Henry Bolingbroke, who took the throne as Henry IV and was crowned king. Richard was sent as a prisoner up to the great royal fortress of Pontefract in Yorkshire, and Henry and his family settled to celebrate Christmas at Windsor. But Richard still had supporters amongst the nobility, and some of them plotted to rescue him from Pontefract, restore him to the throne, having murdered, killed off Henry and his family. Henry, though, got wind of the plot, escaped to the safety of the Tower of London. The rebel earls, realizing their plot had failed, retreated westwards, stopping overnight here in Cirencester, where some sort of fracas developed between the townsfolk and the earl's retainers. Amazingly, the townsfolk came out on top, and the earls were dragged into the marketplace, their heads hacked off and sent off to Henry, who was so pleased, he said if they were carrying treasure with them, you may keep it. And the townsfolk found that the earls had treasure with them, and with that money, our great tower rose.
Being so old, the church has naturally collected some interesting artifacts throughout the years, such as this cup, which was a gift from Queen Anne Boleyn through her physician who lived in the town, made from gilded silver and sporting her eagle crest on top. And this nearly 700-year-old cope, which may have belonged to one of the Augustinian canons, Richard Parsons, and was woven in with real silver thread and depicts his coat of arms and an inscription in Latin, roughly translated to, "Please pray for the soul of Richard Parsons." This church is steeped in historical significance and archaeological history, and has evolved into the impressive and steadfast pillar of the community that it is today. If you're ever in the Cirencester area, please drop by and have a look around. I can guarantee you'll be impressed.